Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Carlson. You hear the applause from the audience that's here. We have a large studio audience today. We haven't had one this large before, but we're really excited. We're coming to you live from downtown Sebring, right next to the Strangely Warm Coffee Trailer, which I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but Strangely Warm Coffee is a ministry of my church, First United Methodist Church. So if you get a chance, go online, check it out, buy some coffee, help out the good mission projects and works of First United Methodist Church downtown Sebring. We appreciate everything that they do for our community. Of course, I do because it's my church. Today, my special guest, I have a super big shot, City Councilman from the city of Tampa, right here in our own state of Florida, Bill Carlson. Bill, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be back in Sebring.
We're glad to have you here. He's also my big brother. As you can see, he's about an inch taller than me, but he's also a little bit older than me.
I'm the better looking one.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, hold on. But ching, I'm not sure if that worked or not, but I'm trying out some sounds today, so I'll do my best to get the right ones. And I think I got them all down. So when we say I'm the better looker one, we say clap, 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 and then we turn it off. All right, so Bill, we grew up here in Sebring, and today I think with the audience, we want to give the audience a little look at we toured some things around Sebring yesterday, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I wanted to give a chance for you just quickly say who you are, how you got to where you are, and that's pretty much it.
Hey, like Jeff, I grew up in Sebring, went to Sebring High, and then went to the University of Tampa, which a lot of folks here did. And then the Rotary clubs in this area sponsor me, and I want to give a big shout out to them because the Sebring Rotary Club really literally changed my life. The late Claggett Taylor and a lot of fantastic Rotarians saw some promise in me, and they invested in me, and then the Rotary clubs of the region sponsored me to go to Singapore, and I ended up studying there for a year, and then ended up staying a total of 5 years, and then came back. I've been in Tampa because I was able to work with a public relations, public affairs firm there, and went to graduate school in 98, 99, and then have been back running this public relations firm since. And come back to Sebring regularly, see my parents. And, oh, by the way, I should give a shout-out to my son.
Come on over, Jacob. Say hi.
I got 3 kids. We came back to see Grandma and Papa this weekend. And this is Jacob, my middle one. And he's trying to be a YouTube star, so he wanted to make sure that he got to say hi. And you might see him carrying signs behind every now and then.
And if you know, his big brother Trey was in our episode last week as part of my kids group talking about the effects of COVID-19. And we're trying to move past that to some positive stuff today. That's why I brought my brother here so we could talk about some of the playgrounds. So we grew up in the Indian Streets. For those of you that don't know, I can't overlay a map right here. Indian Streets is north side of town, kind of northeast Sebring. They're called the Indian Streets because all of the streets in that neighborhood are named after famous Indians from the area. Tell us a little bit about that neighborhood when we grew up.
You just said the whole thing. We grew up near Hidden Beach, too. And so I was showing my kids yesterday, the old Sebring estate is up there. And I think we were in one of the lots that used to be part of the orange groves for that estate. And it was spectacular because we were on a big hill. And there's a circle up there, and we were able to walk down to Hidden Beach and go to the beach every day when it was warm enough. Remember how hot the asphalt was? We'd have to run down Valencia with our feet burning. I was telling my kids yesterday that we do that, that we used to do that, and then we burn our feet. And then Morgan, your daughter, said, "Oh, I still do that."
Well, the thing about our neighborhood was it was previously orange groves, and right now there's a lot of houses in that area. Back then, those developments weren't there. Stone Ridge. Even past the Swain's house in Bougainvillea in that area, it was all orange groves. And I don't know if you remember this, but in our backyard, we had a couple of orange trees, and there were also some stems from overhead sprinkler systems that were still there off in the back corner of our backyard. So every now and then you're running through the yard, you might trip on one. We had one back there, but they were all over because they used to irrigate groves overhead.
Yeah, back then I was telling my kids yesterday, back then orange groves all around us, and I don't know whether it was legal or not, but now it's a lot more restrictive because of all the diseases in orange groves. But we could run around the orange groves all the time, and we really grew up eating oranges and playing in orange groves.
Only oranges that we paid for or were given permission from the owners, like Mr. Tom Emerson that used to live back there, and he had some groves around his workshop. Remember that old workshop?
He had a great grapefruit tree that he would let us get grapefruit straight off the tree. It was fantastic.
You know, and I could sit here and rattle off all the people that lived on our street. Carrie Harris, one of my close friends to this day. We've been buddies since we were 2 or 3 years old. Lived next door. Sean, Sean Jacobs and his sister Brandy grew up next door. That's Brandy Hornick now.
Kim was
but
next door.
Holly and Carrie and Christy Harris, Bobby, Will, Mike Swain, Eric Lewis, the Fergusons, and even I pointed out to the kids yesterday, I was showing them how we used to take our skateboards down Nansesewee. Down to Seshi, down the hill in front of the Ferguson's house. Remember when they came through? When we originally moved there, the sewer system didn't go through that neighborhood because it was kind of being expanded, and the city came through and tore a line up to Seshi, up the hill to Valencia, and there was one patch of asphalt, smooth asphalt, that came down the middle of it. So we would Superman down our skateboards on it. I don't even remember that.
I didn't do that. But the one thing I was showing my kids yesterday is we used to ride our bikes all around there, and most of it was orange groves, so mostly what we'd have to be careful about was the orange trucks coming in and out. But I was telling them, probably not many people remember this anymore, but out by where Thriftway was, if you all remember that, by the old Sebring train. One of the
right down the street.
There was a magic market, and that was the first place I ever remember there being an icy Slurpee kind of thing. and we used to ride our bikes all the way from the Indian streets there, and I was telling my kids, in the middle of a hot day, you're thirsty, so you ride all the way over there, you drink an icy, and then you ride all the way back and you're thirsty again. But that's what we would do to get our ices.
Well, when you get down to the bottom of Teseshi, just after you go across home, I point out the kids, I've kind of forgotten about this, but Honorable Judge Anthony Rittenauer grew up right there too, and got one of our dogs used to just roam the neighborhood right back then as well, and our dog used to be notorious for having puppies in people's backyard. But
another story I was telling my son just now is that my parents' shop used to be a couple blocks from where we are right now, and people who have been around a long time will remember that across the street was Barnett Bank. Anybody remember that? I think it was one of the great brands in banking. A lot of the best bankers in the state used to work for Barnett and now have gone on to others. Now I guess the building's empty, or it's a flea market or something. But when I was a kid, they used to have free orange juice, and so we could go over there and get free orange juice. And right here somewhere, either here or a couple blocks away, was a big food truck bus that had
an old school
cherry slushies and hamburgers. So anyway, lots of great memories growing up in Sebring.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up. Dan Andrews and I were at Dee's last week having breakfast, and we asked her for some orange juice, and she said something about orange juice, and I said, "Oh, remember the Barnett Bank orange juice truck?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I love that." And Dan's like, "What are you guys talking about?" Like, well, I guess your age being so much younger than us does make a difference.
One thing I'm glad about, by the way, is that the orange industry is coming back, and especially in Florida. It's been hard hit by different kinds of greening and other diseases, and also the anti-sugar movement. But now there's not many bright lights in the COVID-19 crisis. But one of them is that people are turning back to orange juice because they realize they need vitamins and
absolutely,
and they need the nutrients. And there are a lot of people that we know who are individual farmers and big farmers that have orange trees, and they rely on this for their livelihood. So, I'm happy that's
gratuitous plug,
because we need it's a core industry in Florida, and we all grew up around it, and we have to not take it for granted because it could be taken over by other countries or it could go away, and it's part of our identity. We need to make sure that we maintain and support that industry.
Yeah, some of my fondest memories of childhood are taking Sharon and Fred Kyber's boat out in the afternoons, but in order to be allowed to do that, she forced us as children. She paid us with fuel and some money. We were in Lake Placid in the groves near Highway Park for them, fixing microjets every morning from sunup till about 2 or 3 o'clock when it got really hot, and then we could come home after we fixed all the only good thing about fixing microjets is every time you unplug one, it squirts water all over you. So it was a good thing that we were able to enjoy that. So one of the main things I wanted, this is great reminiscing with you. I thought it'd be really fun and a kind of a different jovial thing, but I want to talk specifically, one of the things that I've always been passionate about since before I was on city council, while I was on city council and while I was county commissioner, was building partnerships to try and rebuild some of the parks around the city of Sebring. And I think the fruits of that labor now are widespread across town, and a lot of people won't remember, but yesterday you and I took a tour with the kids to some of our parks, and the first one we went to was the little circle at Valencia, which is very similar to one down here. But the little circle off Valencia when we were children was cracked sidewalks and grass up to your knees and sand spurs everywhere. So you effectively couldn't use it or even walk through it. And it looks pretty good now. The city went in and cleaned it up, and we had a partnership with some of the neighbors. So give us some of your impressions of how that's our first park we'll talk about today, which is really a passive park, but it's got some amenities.
Yeah, I know it's a neighborhood park, which I think is important. People need to be able to walk to neighborhood parks. Kids need to have places that they can go play. They can't. The orange groves are illegal to go into now, and there aren't that many of them right around the neighborhoods anymore. So they need places that they can go. So yeah, thank you for your leadership and the city council leadership at the time. Now people can live anywhere they want. You see in this COVID-19 situation that more and more companies are allowing people to work from home. That means the best companies in the world, the smartest people in the world can live anywhere they want. And more people are choosing to live in a place like Sebring because of the lifestyle environment. It's safe. You know everybody. You know your doctors. You know your lawyers. Everybody. It's the kind of environment that you know that your kids are safe growing up in, and everybody supports each other from a business perspective. And we need to make sure that we maintain that. But also, people come because of the outdoor lifestyle. That you can go cycling. Legacy Bikes is right here next to us. You can go in the canoes. You can go kayaks. You can go water skiing. We used to go out on the boat with the Kybers every day almost.
Yeah.
After school, it was a normal thing to go boating. You take that for granted, but you move to a big city where it's canyons of buildings, and you don't have that outdoor lifestyle.
Yeah, when we left Valencia in our old neighborhood and we were driving to the next one, which is by our elementary school, Woodlawn Elementary, which is where my kids went to elementary school, so that was pretty awesome. The coolest thing when the Logan, my oldest, started Woodlawn Elementary, which would have been probably 2003 or 4, when we got there, some of the same teachers were still there that where we were there. Ted Bohm was still the coach at Woodlawn Elementary, which was phenomenal. And then they move up to the middle school and the high school, and Carolyn Campbell, one of my favorite people of all time, was still their teacher there and really helped cultivate them. But I digress a little bit. When we left Valencia, we drove down what used to be Eucalyptus and on the Sebring Parkway now, because that road has been closed off. It's actually been renamed to its original platted name, Old Mulawi. There are some bugs flying around us right now. Today's one of our warmest days, so next week we're probably going to move to inside studio so we have some AC. But as we drove down there, remember when we were kids, that section of the Sebring Parkway from Ridgewood all the way to Home Avenue was railroad tracks. And there used to be I don't know if they were phosphate cars or what kind of cars they were, but they were almost always parked there, and we could climb around in them and stuff. You remember that was kind of our trip to school.
We should find out from Bob Swain if the statute of limitations. One of the things
Bob never did any of that.
I was taking my kids around Woodlawn yesterday, and of course Woodlawn's changed a lot now. It has all that big parking lot in the back. It used to be the area we'd play around in. But one of the things I was thinking is, as I was looking at the office, I don't know how many people went to elementary school there, but the first thing I thought of when I looked at the office was the electric paddle really real? You remember, was it Mr. Engel?
Yeah, Mr. Engel.
Luckily, I never got to experience it, but there was the threat of an electric paddle. If you were bad, that you would get that. If anybody knows if that's real, you can post underneath the video and let us know.
From experience at that age, most of them were just wooden with no electrical cords. But they did have, I know at Sebring Middle School, there were handprints on the principal's desk so that you had underneath the glass, so that you had a spot to put your hands when those people that I heard about that went there and got paddled every now and then. But yeah, Woodlawn's changed a lot. The school's grown. They've reconfigured the whole thing, so the office is now back on the backside where the fields were that we used to play in, and there used to be a road that cut through there so you could get to the basketball courts and everything. Now that's all sealed off, and where the old office is now the playground for the younger kids. So,
one thing we haven't talked about is you're running for county commission. It's countywide, but we also have great memories in Lake Placid and Avon Park and other areas. I think that Lake Placid is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. I've been to 97 countries now, thanks to the Rotary Club of Sebring. And Lake Placid, when you're driving from the south up 27 and you see the lakes, sometimes I'll go down 75 to Miami and then I'll drive back up to stop and visit my parents. And when you're driving from the south north and you see, first of all, the Citrus Tower and you see all those lakes, it really is spectacular. I mean, you think that you're in a Tuscan villa area somewhere in Italy. It really is beautiful. And the interesting thing is, or sad thing, Sebring is well known for the race. Lake Placid's well known for caladiums. I actually have people,
Number one producer in the world.
when I tell them that I'm from Sebring, of course, do all the time. People say, so Sebring's the caladium place, right?
Right.
And probably people in Lake Placid sometimes have to answer the question the other way. But Avon Park too, is a beautiful historic area. From the Jacaranda to the mall. Anybody remember cruising the mall years ago?
They just, it's funny. I don't know if you read this or not, but because of a normal graduation, Avon Park actually did a cruise the mall graduation. So what they did is they lined up all the kids and had them cruise the mall, as we did back then. But we would park every now and then and get out of our cars and wave at them as they go by. It was a lot of fun.
I remember when we go on dates, this is before there were very many restaurants in Sebring. There was a fantastic French restaurant, I think down by Lake Placid. Pierre's, I think, was down by Lake Placid. Yeah. French restaurant.
Correct.
And then, in Avon Park, there was Pia Luigi's, there was Olympia and others. And then sometimes we'd have to go to Lake Wales or Winter Haven. And it's a testament to what's happened in Sebring the last 20 years, that there are great restaurants here, great coffee shops, lots of fantastic lifestyle-oriented businesses.
Yeah, we were just on Lake June last week, or a couple weeks ago, taking the kids tubing and hanging out with some of Jessica's friends. Jessica, for those of you that don't know, is now my fiance. Thank you, baby. I love you. She couldn't come. She had to go back to Hardy County and do some work over there today. So I'm gonna flip back at Lake Placid. One of the great projects that we partnered with a not-for-profit on, motorcycles revving their engine for some reason. He's probably about to stall.
He's hopefully a voter. He's staying high, right?
Yeah. In Lake Placid, when I was on the county commission, and partnered with the Miracle League, and they built a whole field down there for the Miracle League in Lake Placid, right off Lake June. It's a really cool park that offers opportunities for everyone, especially those with physical disabilities, so that they can play and recreate the same way they did. And one of the things that we focused on is we rebuilt playgrounds. And the first one is the next one I want to talk about. So before I got on city council, we had a loosely put together committee that was not really appointed by anyone. It was composed of myself, Lori Smith, who was on the CRA for many, many years. I think she originally brought the idea to us. Mike Carter from the Rotary Club of Sebring. I was president of the Kiwanis Club of Sebring at the time. We got together and loosely called ourselves the Playground Committee in '98, and we partnered with not-for-profits, commercial businesses, and we also partnered with government to get some grant dollars to rebuild Charlie Brown Park. And we stopped there yesterday too, and the city's redoing it right now, which is pretty cool. But the playground equipment that we put there was our second playground that committee worked on. Kind of rebuilt the things that we had when we were kids, and those of us that grew up over there know that there was a slide that was made out of metal, and as soon as you got on that thing in the middle of the summertime, your butt was fried all the way down.
And every now and then the metal would move a little bit, and you'd cut yourself.
Yeah.
And there was this, what do you call the thing, the merry-go-round or whatever, that
spun.
You kids could easily get stuck underneath. We'd be running in the
fly off.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for changing that. It's still nice. And yesterday we also went to the Max Long Field area, which I think you also.
Yeah, Max Long was actually our first playground that the playground committee worked on, and that was 22 years ago that we built that playground. And the city subsequently rebuilt it because you want to make sure that it's safe, that it provides a good environment for the children. So it's something that as maintenance and things break, and I think what happened with that one is you couldn't get replacement parts because a lot of them are proprietary, but we had to shut that one down. They rebuilt that now. And when we were kids playing at Max Long, the only passive equipment that was there to play with, and I used to remember having a lot of fun playing there when I wasn't playing ball, which I didn't do for very long, but they were half-buried tractor tires, probably a common theme around Florida, but half-buried tractor tires in between two of the fields, and that's what we played under and around and jumped off. And unfortunately, they took those out, which would kind of bum me out. Just for nostalgia reasons, I liked having them there.
But the thing we find parks and playgrounds are not just a nice amenity; they're an economic development strategy, and people. What we found is that young single people a lot of times like to live in urban areas, but as soon as they have kids or they start planning on kids, they want to live in an environment that's safe and hospitable for kids, and they look for the amenities where they can take the kids. And outside the COVID-19 crisis, playgrounds and parks are a place where you can gather to meet people too and network. They're a really important strategic tool for cities.
Well, that playground at Max Long, we built the year that my son Logan was born. He's now 22 years old. So it was a really, really long time ago. And the cool thing you just mentioned about that was at the time, the kid's mom, Julie, was trying to figure out her niche in the community too, because we had been here 2 years. She was trying to meet new people. And someone at the YMCA put together a Mommy and Me class. And the Mommy and Me class met at that playground every week, and they would meet there and have coffee and play. And that included like most of my friends, that some that I knew, like Tommy Griffin I knew prior to he went to high school with us, but we really hadn't reconnected other than golf league or something. But Tommy Griffin, Greg Stupinski, all these people that were having kids at the same time, Maureen and Carl Kuhl, they all started hanging out there. And these people, that thing brought people together. That's a lot of them had come from out of the community, met people from the community, grew into blossoming friendships who we still all carry on to this day. And the kids are all still friends 22 years later.
Yeah, and what people may or may not realize is that the Sebring network is really powerful and it's worldwide. Just about everywhere I go, Sebring's a small town. Highlands County is small in comparison, but everywhere I go, I run into people. I was giving a speech at FSU a few years ago, and to a group of like 80 or 90 students, and I mentioned that I was from Sebring, and one person raised her hand. It turns out that her parents went to high school with me. and there's this fantastic network of people who still help each other, and that's because we grew up on playgrounds, working together. One of Morgan's best friends, Megan, was working in the governor's office and then in Senator Scott's office, and has fantastic contacts, and they all help each other. And anybody who has kids who happen to be studying or coming to Tampa, please let me know. Email me. It's bill@billcarlson.com. Happy to help them and connect them if you need anything.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is a great trip down memory lane. I'm producing some videos for the campaign that are going to highlight certain things, and certainly some of the footage that we took yesterday and some of this footage today about the playgrounds. The playgrounds that we built since I was there included Max Long, Charlie Brown. There's one in Washington Heights that we rebuilt. There's one in Highlands Homes that we actually built put some playground equipment there and rebuilt the ball fields. That's named after one of our own baseball superstars, Gabe White. So the Miracle League up down in Lake Placid, there's lots of different opportunities. The Pier Beach now has a lot of amenities and playgrounds, and Veterans Beach has a lot of new playground equipment, and a lot of great areas for people to be, and an economic engine for our community, especially as people think about working remotely, because here we are outside live streaming to the entire world right now.
We're working remotely.
Right, we're working remotely. We have friends all over the world that watch this show, so it's pretty cool that we're able to do that sitting out here on the side of the road next to the grass. So pretty awesome. We're really excited about that.
One thing I should mention, what I tell people is Sebring is in the extended Tampa Bay area. We're also in the extended Orlando, Central Florida area. Many of you may have seen the news over the weekend about what's happened in Tampa, and really, without going into a long story about it, it's about economic development equity. It's about making sure that we pay attention to all the parts of our city. And I spent a lot of time helping St. Petersburg address some of the equitable issues of their community, and that's why they didn't have the same situation that Tampa had. And if you follow me over the next few weeks, you'll be hearing that I'll be talking about this more. I have been for several years, and I will be more. But one of the things with equity is, first of all, paying attention, and Jeff mentioned how the work that he had done before was in several different communities. But the other part of it is making sure you don't waste money. Former Mayor of Tampa, in the traditionally African-American community, there was a single community center that had rats running around in it, and it was $130,000 to renovate it. And the former mayor of Tampa decided not to do that. Instead, he spent $12 million on a boathouse so that rich kids from New York and New England could come down and ride their boats on the waterfront. And the thing I like about Jeff, and the reason why I and others have encouraged him to get back into business, is he was really one of the best public servants I've thought of. He thinks about the equity issues. He thinks about fairness. But the thing that Jeff's really good at, he has an MBA and he has a CPA. His business is helping people save money in their businesses and thinking about the bottom line. One of the things he taught me, and he's been a role model for me, is that you have to read the documents that you get in City Council. Every week at City Council, we get 500 or 600 pages of documents, and not everybody who's a public servant reads the documents. And what Jeff taught me is there's a lot that you have to study in the fine print. And sometimes when Jeff was on elected office, he was the lone person saying, why are we wasting money like this? Or why didn't we look at this contract? This contract's going to put us in the wrong place. It's going to give us a predicament. Jeff would be the one, why are we spending $12 million on this when we should be spending it somewhere else? I think whether you're Republican or Democrat, everybody believes in not wasting money. Everybody believes with saving money, whether you think the money should be used to reduce taxes or to spend on better services or better products. But you can't do that unless you have smart people who pay attention. And Jeff reads the 500 pages or 1,000 pages. And I try to aspire to be like him, to read those documents. And because of that, if you Google me, you'll find that I found a lot of stuff. I found a lot of things, and I could go through the details of those. There was an issue recently where it's through some accounting, there was $3.1 million that was kind of shadowed from City Council, and I made a resolution to bring it back into the sunshine. And we need more people who are looking at those
transparency.
Numbers. We need transparency. We need to pay attention to the way the contracts are written and what we're promising for the future, liability to taxpayers. It's not enough just to say we want something in concept. We need to pay attention to how we're doing it.
And think about the long term, so that we have the meetings in the sunshine. There's a lot of meetings that go behind the scenes individually with staff and elected officials, but really bringing the details and discussion into the sunshine so that people understand what we're doing and not ask questions. I can remember one time at the county commission, we hired a consultant to come in and analyze a bond reissue for us. And I asked the consultant in the meeting how much, what's the differential in interest savings between these two deals, net of any fees that we're going to be paying out for them. And the answer was she didn't know. And I said, but we're paying you to tell us these things. Why aren't you doing that? I don't know. Well, these are the kind of things that we need to pay attention to, because we were spending $50,000 for a consultant. What value are they giving us? Really, they're just doing nothing.
The other thing is an issue we've had in Tampa is single bid contracts. So about 20% of the contracts before we took over a year ago were single bids. The purchasing department only had one company bidding on it. Well, if you have, people would ask me on the campaign trail, do you think we ought to raise taxes or lower it, cut costs? And I said, why don't we advertise the RFPs so that we get more than one bidder? And this is the kind of thing that Jeff taught me. If you want a good custodian of the taxpayer money, you want somebody who has a degree, and his job every day is to look at the financials of companies and understand them and think about the impact of spending money on the public. We are custodians. Elected officials are custodians of the public's money, and we need to think about it as if it's our own. How would we spend it in a way that's very efficient that will get the results we need?
I agree. That's something we have to do every day as elected officials. We're running a little bit over our normal time frame, so we're going to call this episode to an end. If you want to check out my brother, he's got a program. Tell him real quickly, when does Cafe Con Tampa show up? Get some info on Tampa and some cool things.
You can go, if you go to Facebook, look up Cafe Con Tampa, or go to cafecontampa.com, and we have shows at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and 8 o'clock on Friday mornings, and you can watch it from anywhere, and we have lots of interesting speakers and programs. We'll be back next week with a great, exciting program. Again, my name is Jeff Carlson. I'm a candidate for Highlands County Commission. Please vote for me on August the 18th. Check me out at carlson2020.com or on Facebook. And I'm going to say, I got one thing left to play. I'm playing with these sound bites, but I'll play that real quick.
Jeff Carlson, Highlands County Commission, District 3.
All right, and we'll end with Morgan. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a blessed day.
Thanks, everybody.